Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajanarandana Yashodanandana Brajanarandana Jamuna Tira Vinaśyati Jamuna Tira Vinaśyati Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajanarandana Yashodanandana Brajanarandana Jamuna Tira Vinaśyati Jamuna Tira Vinaśyati Jamuna Tira Vinaśyati Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava kunja vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava kunja vihari. Jai Nityalila Vishnu Mr. Pada Divine Grace Lacey Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Guri Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Sri Rup Sanatana Patragana Sri Jeev Gopala Das Ragana Sad Goswami Prabhu Ki Samācarej Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Go Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhana Ki Brajabhumi Vrindavan Dham Ki Grantara Srimad Bhagavad-Gita Ki Bolo Sri Sri Krishna Baldao Ki Tai Go Premanandi. All glories to the Assembled Devotee. All glories to the Assembled Devotee. All glories to the Assembled Devotee. All glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to you, Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, the beautiful face of Sri Krishna, canto number 10. In chapter 33, the Rasa dance, text number 30. Naitat, samācarej, jātu, manasāpi, anīśvaraḥ, vinaśyati, ācaran, mauḍhyād, yathārudro, abdhijam, viṣam, naitat samācarej jātu, manasāpi anīśvaraḥ, vinaśyati ācaran mauḍhyād, yathārudro bdhi-jaṁ viṣam, naitat samācarej jātu, manasāpi anīśvaraḥ, vinaśyati ācaran mauḍhyād, yathārudro bdhi-jaṁ viṣam, yathārudro-bdhi-jaṁ viṣam, naitat samācarej jātu, manasāpi anīśvaraḥ, vinaśyati ācaran mauḍhyād, yathārudro bdhi-jaṁ viṣam, rudro bdhi-jaṁ. bdhi-jaṁ. Mataji's? Arudraḥ viṣam. Na, not, etat, this, samācaret, should perform, jātu, ever, manasā, with the mind, api, even, he, certainly, anīśvaraḥ, one who is not a controller, vinaśyati, he is destroyed. Ācaran, acting. Mauḍhyāt, out of foolishness. Yathā, as. Arudraḥ, one who is not Lord Rudra. Abdhijam, generated from the ocean. Viṣam, poison. Translation: one who is not a great controller should never imitate the behavior of ruling personalities, even mentally. If out of foolishness, an ordinary person does imitate such behavior, he will destroy himself, just as a person who is not Rudra would destroy himself if he tried to drink an ocean of poison. So translation, please repeat. One who is not a great controller should never imitate the behavior of ruling personalities, even mentally. If out of foolishness, an ordinary person does imitate such behavior, he will simply destroy himself, just as a person who is not Rudra would destroy himself if he tried to drink an ocean of poison. Purport by the followers of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Lord Shiva, or Rudra, once drank an ocean of poison. And the result was that an attractive blue mark appeared on his neck. But if we try to drink even a drop of such poison, we would die immediately. Just as we should not imitate this pastime of Shiva's, we should not imitate Lord Krishna's activities with the gopis. We should clearly understand that while Lord Krishna certainly descends to demonstrate religious principles, he also descends to demonstrate that he is God and we are not. That also must be demonstrated. The Lord enjoys with his internal potency and thus attracts us to the spiritual platform. We should not try to imitate Krishna, for we will suffer severely. Naitat samācarej jātu manasāpi anīśvaraḥ vinaśyaty ācaran mauḍhyād yathārudro bdhi-jaṁ viṣam. One who is not a great controller should never imitate the behavior of ruling personalities, even mentally. If out of foolishness an ordinary person does imitate such behavior, he will simply destroy himself, just as a person who is not Rudra would destroy himself if he tried to drink an ocean of poison. Om ajnānatimirandasya gyananjana shalakaya chakshurun militam jena tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Sri Chaitanya-manobhistam sthapitam jena bhutale Sayam rupakadamayam dadati svavadandiyam adadanastryandantai ridam yache puna puna Srimad rupapadambujo dulisyam janma janmanim. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Panchakalpatrubhyascha kripasindhuvevacha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So this is a very, very important instruction in Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada cited this many, many times. Because in Western countries, people were very fond of taking intoxication. So, and sometimes they would cite that Lord Shiva is also taking ganja. Of course, we can't imagine Lord Shiva. He was probably taking it another way, so especially if you stay in Vrindavan for a while, you see them, grinding it into a paste and rolling it into little balls, and they pop those. And then there's a very natural ice cream called kulfi, but you have to be very careful not to take the green kulfi. Or any type of sweet of that nature that's green, you be very careful. I remember Hans Rupa's brother, who was not a devotee, he came here. Oh, he loved it. But Lord Shiva, he can drink a whole ocean of poison. The hippies, they like him very much because he has long, matted locks. Just like we see many of the sadhus here in Braj. Their hair is all twisted and turned with tree wax and mud and also many things, All the girls are going. But I guess I stayed here in Braj too long. I went to Indradumna Swami's Woodstock Festival. There I saw even girls with hair like that. What are they called? Dreadlocks. I stayed in Braj too long. I was shocked. So they like to imitate him. But here we get the warning that Lord Shiva, he can do all these things because he was able to take an ocean of poison, just like when we know that when they were churning the ocean of milk, the first thing that came out was this black poison. What is it called? halahal. It's always black. Usually, generally, poison is always characterized as black. Unfortunately, in the modern age, it's come as white. This white sugar is the modern halahal. It's pure white, but it is deadly poison, actually. But anyway, this black poison appeared. Lord Shiva, so he just scooped it all up. And here Prabhupada points out that he got this beautiful blue circle on his neck. Therefore he's called Nilkant. Nilkant. Kant means just like we have Kantimala, Nilkant. So his throat became blue because of that. Very, very, Prabhupada describes very beautiful, very attractive, he says. So it became Nilkant. So here it says, viṣam. Viṣam means poison. Just like sometimes the devotees, they like to name their children Visvanath, Visvambar, Visvajivan, Visvajit, Visvanath, all types of names like that. And what do their friends call them? Bish. I'm always embarrassed, here in Braj, somebody goes, "Hey, Bish!" All the Brishbazis turn around. People always ask me what we should name our child. I said, don't worry about what your name is, worry about what they're going to call him. And Prabhupada says, even a tiny drop, if you try to drink, you'll die. But Lord Shiva is very powerful. So we had this whole discussion yesterday about imitation and following. So here Prabhupada explains very carefully, Krishna came, one, to display, to establish religious principles. Dharma samstapanartaya. To establish religious principles. He said, but also, he wanted to display his wonderful pastimes that go on in the spiritual world. So Krishna's instructions we should follow, but we should not imitate these pastimes that are just demonstrating how he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We just read how he expanded into, I guess we decided trillions of Krishnas. Somebody came up with a number. This was news to me. So some devotee gave the class, he gave the number of actually how many gopis there were. I think it came out to trillions anyway. So we can't do that. And so Krishna was demonstrating that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He can do things like this. We should not imitate these pastimes. We should follow his instructions, but we should not imitate these pastimes. And we just read how the sun, even if it finds moisture in a very filthy place, just like the urinal, a very dirty place, but it extracts that water and remains pure. It does not affect it. So sometimes this is the big criticism, that Krishna, he's dancing with other people's wives. So actually, wife means Dharampatni. And Dharampatni means that within her heart, there's nobody else but her Patidev, her husband. Within her heart, no one else is there. So who's in the heart of all living beings? We read in Srimad Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna's sitting in everyone's heart. So we're all Krishna's wives. So the question is not why Krishna's dancing with others' wives, why are you dancing with others' wives? But still, Prabhupada says, I can't even pronounce this, is a funny one of those. Mauḍhyād. We like to pronounce it like a D, but it's somewhere between a D and an R. Mauḍhyād. Foolish people. they try to imitate Krishna's pastimes. So if you try, just like if you try to take a drop of the ocean of poison, like Lord Shiva drank the whole thing, but you take the powers of one drop will destroy you. Here it says, vinaśyati. We know this word, vinash. How does it go? Is it gone here? Prichanaya sadhunam vinaśyaya diskitam. So it means destroy. If you try to imitate the Leela of Krishna, then you'll be destroyed. Unfortunately, there are many people who, not many, I said there's some people who do like this. If you stay in Braj for long enough, you'll see people all dressed up like gopis with makeup and jewelry and, walking around very sweet. So you'll see these things, unfortunately. But this is total foolishness, and people totally misunderstand. I can remember first Mayapur festival I came to. Somehow, although we were very, very, very sick, I just fell in love with Mayapur. And I described the other morning how we all came on a big jet together, big 747. But to get from Calcutta to Delhi, because it used to be called the Mayapur Vrindavan Festival. Now it's just the Mayapur Festival. But anyway, it used to be called the Mayapur Vrindavan. 2 weeks Mayapur, 2 weeks Vrindavan. So to get from Calcutta to Delhi, there's no big 747, so they put us in all these small planes. So they had us leaving in groups. So I managed somehow or other to be in the last group. I didn't want to leave. So I managed to be in the last group. And I was with there was a bunch of Australians. And those days we didn't have any, Indian temples were very, very poor, so they didn't have any money. So the last group wasn't big enough to rent a bus to take us to the airport in Calcutta. So they decided to send us by train. And we all went to somehow they got us to Krishnanagar train station. And that was in the early 70s, white Vaishnavas was something very shocking, totally shocking. And villagers, they don't seem to have any inhibition about staring. Most cultures, it's considered very impolite to stare. But we were like the honey, and the Bengali villagers, they were like the bees. And we were just, and with unblinking eyes, they just staring at us. Then there were some smart-ass characters that came over, and they started, we were shocked. We never believed that people could do like that. Oh, Krishna has his saki. We have our sakis also. And we were just, we were shocked that people could act like this, Because nobody understands Krishna's pastimes unless you hear them from the mouth of the pure devotee. That we heard in the very beginning. We have to be very careful. We're the right source. We have to hear from the proper authority. And we didn't know the system that you reach through the window and put something on the seat and that reserves it. We just came in and we saw, handkerchiefs and whatever, and we just pushed them all out of the way and sat down. So then there was quite a lot of tension. And by the end of this trip, because it was all Australians, I couldn't even talk like American anymore. I was talking strine. Chant the holy name, mate. It's the only way. It's Lord Chaitanya's movement. I remember, and the electricity was terrible. So we were going along in this train, and we're out in the middle of nowhere, It is the first time in my life, I'm in my 20s, it's the first time in my life I've ever been out of the country, and the electricity went out and the train stopped in the middle of the rice fields. We're out in the middle of nowhere. And then he was much larger than the villagers. Some fat guy came on, and he was a communist. So he started looking at us, and he started going, in Bengali, blah, 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 blah. And then he'd look at us and go, CIA, American spy, CIA, American. Everybody else was Australian. I was the only American there. CIA, American. Then he'd go, blah, 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 blah. We thought, oh, no, he's getting everybody riled up against us, Oh, no, CIA, American spy, blah, 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 blah. We thought he was getting everybody. Yeah. We're stuck out in the middle of nowhere. Nobody knows where we are. We're thousands of miles from home. I was only, a little over 20 years old. I was freaked out. And then he made a big stink that this is my country. Why I'm standing? You should be standing. I should be sitting. And naturally, he wanted to sit next to the lady. So somehow or other, between the men, we made a little space for him to sit down. I remember somehow we somebody said Dum Dum Station's coming, so we somehow made a little line through the crowd was just jam-packed, we made a little line through with all our luggage and everything, and we got to the door, and I turned around and looked back, and the guy looked and he said, so America is trying to take over India, but India will take over America. And I said, you can have the whole damn place. It is a fact, now they have taken over. You see, you see any software, who's the developers, Gopalan, Shivanand, and Srivasan. And now we got even an Indian Prime Minister, Sonak Rishi, and in Britain, my goodness. Anyway, but we were shocked. Somehow we got there, we got on the plane, and we got to Vrindavan. But we were shocked that people could say nasty things like that. We never believed especially in India, we never expected to hear such a nasty thing. But, so the difference between following and imitating is very, very dangerous. We should follow Krishna's instructions, but we don't want to imitate Ras Leela. As we heard yesterday, Prabhupada said, Krishna has Ras Leela, you have Rascal Leela. Then we'll be totally destroyed. Just like it gives the example of the ocean. Ras Leela is like the ocean. And we heard in Bhagavad-Gita that Krishna says, of bodies of water, I am the ocean. Just like we see so many, especially in Braj, we see so many kunds and sarovars, and some places we go, we see big lakes, but when you see the ocean, it's just vast. You can't see the other side. It's just astounding, So Krishna's trying to help us to understand how great he is. We see little puddle. We've seen kunds. We've seen lakes. We've seen, sarovars. We've seen so many things. But when you see the ocean, it's just astounding. So Krishna says, I am the ocean. So actually described in Shastra, just by darshan of the ocean, you get so much piety, you get so much punya, just by seeing darshan of the ocean, because he's not different from Krishna. Krishna is identified. I am among bodies of water, I am the ocean. Because you can't imagine, we're just seeing the surface. Now they've gone down underneath, there's so many things, and they found places where there's trenches and there's mountains taller than on the earth, and so many things under the ocean, so many fish, whales, Timangila fish, so many, giant squids and so many things we can't even imagine. We're just seeing the little surface. It's huge, it's unimaginable, it's Krishna. So just by seeing the ocean, now we get so much pious credit. But if you try to drink the water of the ocean, you will die. We can see it and become very purified. But if you try to drink it, then you will die. So Krishna's Ras Leela is like that. By taking darshan, hearing from the proper authorities, we will get purified. But if we try to imitate that Ras Leela, then if we try to drink that ocean, we'll become purified, we'll become putrefied, Prabhupada said. Putrefied. So, and we were having this discussion yesterday about following and imitating. And I remember there was one graphic example in the modern times that we all remember that one time there was a place, was a very special place in those days, way back in the early 70s. Cross Maidan was the place in Bombay. And Prabhupada had a big Pandal program there. Remember, we had gone to, myself and Mohanananda and a couple of other devotees, we'd gone to Dallas, Texas to start a temple. There was temples on the East Coast, there was temples on the West Coast, and we were going out to, those are different types of cowboys. They're not nice at all, not like our cowherd boys. We went to Dallas, Texas to open a temple. So then, this was, in the early 70s, there was no such thing as Gaur-Purnima Festival. It didn't start till about 74. So we did, Gaur-Purnima was coming, so we decided to do this big festival. There was a famous place called Lee Park. So we made this big paper mache statue of Lord Chaitanya. And there was another little park. We had a procession. We started at this park, and we took Lord Chaitanya dancing through, with everyone dancing and chanting with us, and we went to Lee Park, where we had a big, kirtan going on, and we were distributing prasadam, and it was such an amazing. I remember when we had first gotten to Dallas. They gave us a Volkswagen Bug, if you remember those little creatures. If you go to Peru, you can see it. Somehow they're famous in Peru and South America. Anyway, a couple of boxes of spiritual sky incense, 2 boxes of back to Godheads, and pointed to the rising sun and said, go into the rising sun and open a temple in Dallas. Now you have to have a credit card and a laptop and, this and that and so many things, a nice house, a nice, they just give 2 boxes of BTGs, 2 boxes of spiritual sky incense, little Volkswagen Bug, say, go open a temple. So when we first got to Dallas, somebody had tipped us off that if you go to the First Unitarian Church, they're very broad-minded. They'll be very happy to see you people and they'll help you out. So we went there. We needed a place to stay. So they told us that you can stay. They called around, and there was this big lawyer who was up in the north of Dallas where all the oil millionaires live, And so we were invited into his house. So we were staying in his house, and we set up a little altar on his coffee table. He was the type of person who would not even look at us on the streets, We were right inside his house, so he listened to us, We did kirtan, and we preached and everything. And then we finally, found a place to rent. Because we're selling incense, so we went to one head shop, and the guy said, well, I don't have any money right now, but, I got this flat, maybe you could stay in the flat, and this incense will be the, first and last month's rent. I said, okay. So we got this, it was the bottom half of a duplex, very auspicious. 5108 Mission Street. Nobody remembers that temple. Everybody thinks, Gurley Street or somewhere else was, even before Gurley, what was that place? Anyway, but first one was 5108 Mission Street. So it was the bottom half of a duplex. And some students from SMU, the big university, even Tamal Krishna went there to that university, were living upstairs. So it was a very strange ecological arrangement. We would be going to sleep when their parties would get going upstairs. And when they were crashing out, our Mangalarti would be going on. I remember one time we were waiting for Mangalarti, and they wandered up the walk, half drunk, They'd been out partying all night, and they came in, they saw the light was on, so they came in to see what's going on. And then they started preaching their Christian nonsense to us, and I said, so Jesus told you to get drunk like this? They're really embarrassed. So anyway, we did this festival. Just to let you know how this movement started. So anyway, we did this festival, and what happened was we left that house, and I cooked some halava. I left it behind for the lady of the house. And then we never heard from them again, and we moved in, and we started this. So we did this festival, and we were so amazed. 2,000 people came to this festival, It was so amazing, And Vishnu John came there from Austin, I think he was in at that time. He came from Austin or one of those other places. Anyway, and nice kirtan, a big festival. And remember, suddenly, and it was all hippies, but suddenly that lady who was the wife of that big lawyer in the north of Texas, she showed up. And she came to me and she said, I just wanted to thank you. I don't know what you did to that food, but I ate that food. I gave her halava, right? She said, that was the happiest day of my whole life. So anyway, we wrote to Prabhupada, very enthusiastic. Oh, Prabhupada, we had festival in Lee Park and 2,000 people came. And Prabhupada wrote back, that's nice. We are having festival in Cross Maidan. Every night, 30,000 people are. So anyway, in the early 70s, that was the place, Cross Maidan. So I can't remember, was it 50 years later, 40 years later? Somehow Shyam Sundar got the idea that let's do that again. But that was imitating. Prabhupada went to Cross Maidan, so let's go to Cross Maidan. But Cross Maidan is a rundown, useless place, and every night it took us 2.5 hours to get there. It was just, nobody came. The only thing that saved us is the internet, because it went out on the, TV to millions of people. Otherwise, nobody came. So that was imitating. Actually, the devotees of Bombay, they told me that there's other places more centrally located that are now posh. We saw it was all run down and nobody went there, and it was just useless place. But if we'd gone to Dadar or some other place, had a centrally located, then respectable people would have come. So that's the difference between imitating. Prabhupada chose Cross Maidan. Why? Because that was the place in Mumbai area at that time. So we should have chosen the place that was the place in Mumbai at that time. That's the difference between imitating and following. Following Prabhupada, he chose because it was the best place. And now it's nothing, So anyway, we have to be very, very careful and always keep association with devotees so that we can check ourselves that we're actually making progress in Krishna consciousness. Because all by ourselves we get our imagination, we imagine that I'm a great big devotee, and as soon as you think I'm a big devotee, you're just putting your chin for Maya to come with her combat boots and kick you. Because I remember Bhavananda was the person who made me a devotee, so I have a very soft place in his heart for him. But anyway, he told me one time Prabhupada was in New York, so Bhavananda was serving him. Then he went to Boston. So Bhavananda went up there to serve him also. And he especially was giving him massage at night. So after the class, Prabhupada came upstairs. He stood at the very foot of his bed. And he looked at Bhavananda and he said, all my devotees, all my disciples think that I'm a very great devotee. He said, but actually, I'm always praying to Krishna, please don't let me fall into Maya. I'm always praying to Krishna, please don't let me fall into Maya. And with that, he was standing at the end of the bed. He fell back over the bed. He rolled over, and in complete control of the senses, he was sound asleep. But this is our problem. We think we're big devotees, just putting your chin so Maya can kick, But the pure devotee, what is he doing? He's always praying to Krishna, please don't let me fall into Maya. Please don't let me fall into Maya. Because Prabhupada said, well, that time was about the Westerners, about everybody now. You're not afraid enough of Maya. It's not so bad here. I got my apartment, I got my car, It's not so bad. But we should all, the way that the pure devotees never fall into Maya is because they're always praying to Krishna to save them. We're thinking as soon as you say, just like as soon as you become a devotee, the first thing you say, oh, I will never do that again. I will never go back to Maya. I will never do that again. And over the years, we've seen so many people doing that again. So you say, I will never go back. I remember when I became the first thing I thought, I'll never fall into Maya, So you say, I, then you're finished. Maya's got you halfway already. As soon as you pray, Krishna, I'm very fallen, please don't let me fall into Maya. That's the attitude. As soon as you say I, then Maya comes with her steel cleats on her combat boots and just gives you a big kick. Boom! So this is the trick. We should pray to Krishna to follow his instructions, but never to, even in dream here it says that one should not, even mentally it says, manasāpi. He, oh my goodness, not only api, api is a tiny little Sanskrit word, and he is a very tiny Sanskrit word, but they're not used very casually. As soon as you see api, then you know there's something very special here. And then all of a sudden they put he also. That's also not used very casually. That seals and stamps, So manasāpi, not even with your mind. We shouldn't even dream of imitating Krishna. We should just pray that Krishna, please don't let me fall into Maya. Then we'll always, and stay in the association of devotees, and we'll always be Krishna conscious. So anybody has any questions or comments or arguments? Yes, Maharaj?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you very much for sharing the memories of the early days. That's always very inspiring. A little question I had, you said you were staying in the house of this big lawyer, so
Yeah.
Could you please elaborate how did you end up in this house? Because
I told you that we went to the First Unitarian Church. He was a member of the First Unitarian Church, so, they're sort of broad-minded.
Oh.
There's some, I don't really know much about them. They're open-minded. They're not closed like other Christian sects. So he let us stay in his house, and I remember I was so shocked at all these hippies. All of a sudden, this very fashionable lady walks up and says, I just wanted to thank you so much. I don't know what you did to that food, but I ate it, and that was the happiest day of my life.
Actually, in Hawaii, there was one, he's a Unitarian minister, and he took initiation from one of our devotees, and they sent him he was in Honolulu, he's very big, and then they sent him to San Joaquin Valley or something, to the tech area there, where he still has his ministry, but he's initiated devotee, neck beads, everything. So, yeah, they're a special group of Christians.
Yeah.
And talking about Prabhupada praying, a devotee once said to Prabhupada, Maya is very, very strong. Why is that? If our purpose is to be with God, why is Maya so strong? And Prabhupada said, what's that? He said, Maya is so strong. If our purpose is to be with God, why is that? He said, well, your purpose is not strong. That was the end of the conversation.
Or other times he said, somebody was saying, oh, Sunny is, very bad in my chart. Prabhupada said, with my toe I can kick out so many Sunnies. We just have, Prabhupada said, I remember in the old days, they always used to quote this, I don't hear it anymore. Prabhupada said, just grab on my dhoti, grab onto my dhoti, and I will take you back to home, back to God. I don't hear that anymore. The other thing I don't hear, I remember when I first became a devotee, he used to tell me the story about prasadam. That one time, there were some sages who were in the forest. They were all Vaishnavas. So they made a very special offering, and they offered to their deity. And had a feast, and since it was prasadam, they didn't waste any. They left some, they put it under the tree for the animals. Because if an animal gets prasadam, then he skips so many births and deaths, immediately takes birth in a human family, favorable to Krishna conscious. So anyway, they sprinkle it on the ground under this tree. Meanwhile, there was a man wandering in the forest. He was lost because he was very sinful. So he was lost in the forest, hadn't eaten anything. And he saw the fire. He said, somebody has been cooking here. So he went frantically, looked around underneath the tree. He saw the prasadam. And he immediately ate that prasadam. But at the same time, a very hungry tiger, who was a reaction for all his past sinful activities, actually killed a Brahmin. Very hungry tiger appeared on the scene and pounced on him. And because he had just eaten this prasadam that was offered by these great devotees of Krishna, he went back to Vaikuntha. And that tiger, because he'd eaten the man who'd just eaten the Mahaprasadam, he also went back to Vaikuntha. I always heard this story when I was a new devotee. I don't hear it anymore. Isn't it? Didn't you hear that one?
The story we hear now is the tiger comes to the devotee, and the devotee, no, don't eat me, I'm devotee. And the tiger goes, Sarira bdhi-jaṁ.
Deena. So, just a philosophical thing.
All right.
Krishna comes and performs his pastimes with his Nitya Leela associates, his entourage. Many of the, in Dwarka and even in Vrindavan, they didn't even know Krishna was God, but they were somehow relating to him in a loving, personal way. So there's Nitya Siddhas and Nitya Buddhas. So if this is Lord Chaitanya's movement, and those who are participating in the movement, can they be considered like associates, or can a Nitya Buddha be transformed into a Nitya Siddha? And why is there the differentiation between Nitya Siddha and Nitya Buddha?
Well, essentially, we're all jiva tattva, but some of us, we say Nitya Buddha, eternally, because no one can trace out, Prabhupada, nobody can trace out when we came in contact with material nature. But that is the power of the pure devotee, that he can, just like they give the example that the yogis, they know some trick with they take bell metal, and by some yogic process they turn it into gold. So the pure devotee is like that. He can take this Nitya Buddha and turn him back into a Nitya Siddha. Because we're all eternally the servants of Krishna, but some of us are covered, and since time immemorial, so we say Nitya. We can't trace it out. So that is the power of the pure devotees. And I remember one time, Prabhupada was talking about how only by great fortune, wanted to do so many pious activities and so much tapasya and so many pious activities, he got the association of a pure devotee of the Lord. And the devotee said, but Prabhupada, we didn't do anything. All our activities are sinful. We crashed Yamaraj's hard drive, tried to keep track of it. How did we get your association? Yeah? And Prabhupada said, therefore I have created your fortune. Now you have to go and create fortune for others. Yes? Where's our, wait for the microphone. There's people out there in internet land, they want to hear your question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for sharing such wonderful stories. Prabhuji, I have a question that you were saying that a pure devotee is consistently praying to the Lord.
Yeah.
And in our devotional service, whatever we are engaged on daily basis in so many things. But personally, I'm talking about myself. We lack in this thing, praying to Krishna. Sometimes we pray also, but sometimes we not. Like I do, this is the thing with me. How can we intensely pray to Lord?
Just keep trying. Just keep trying, that's all. We're looking, see now it's the internet age, computer age. We want to click on the link and everything's done. What can I do to become sincere? How can I give up lust? How can I, what's the link? Bing! I'm pure devotee. No, you got to do the work. You just keep trying. Just like when I was young, I used to take my father's National Geographics and cut them all up for my school projects. As I got older, then I realized how much it must have hurt him. But he saw that at least I was doing something good. But anyway, one time the National Geographic was talking about elephants in India, and I was very fascinated, They were pushing the railway cars. In the old days, they used to use them, pushing the railway cars, loading up logs onto the railway cars and so many things. And then they discussed that they would get a small elephant and they would put a great big stake and pound it deep into the ground and tie a rope around his leg. And that little elephant would just go round and round and round until his wrist is bloody, Eventually he comes to the conclusion, it's impossible. No way. He gives up. Now he's loading logs onto the railway car. End of the day, they take a little peg, bing, bing, bing. They put a chain on his leg, and he just stands there. He's a huge elephant. He's lifting up logs. What is this little peg in the ground? Nothing, Sometimes there's a fire, and he just, and rips out the peg and runs, Just like us, sometimes we get lackadaisical and a little slack in our devotional service, and all of a sudden we get a heart attack, and I better get serious. You better get serious now. Just keep trying. All the time you're chanting, all the time you're eating prasadam, all the time you're hearing Bhagavatam class, associating with devotees, you're growing in spiritual life. One day, you'll take that peg of whatever is holding you back and just throw it far away. But just keep trying.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for such wonderful answer. Hare Krishna.
Yes?
Thank you, Prabhu, for the class, for sharing your stories too. Just regarding the example you gave in Mumbai, that maybe devotees were more like imitating Prabhupada then.
Yeah.
So would you say it require on our part, if we want to follow, does it require that we interpret also on our side? That we interpret? Interpret, like that we interpret means we draw our own interpretation if we want to be following. Like imitating is easy, but if we want to follow, then it seems we have to make our own interpretation.
Yes.
Or
Yeah, but we should also confirm that with senior devotees and our spiritual master. Just like I have the letter Prabhupada wrote to me, says, now you preach this Krishna consciousness in your own way, But Prabhupada was, in the beginning, I always understood his lectures, but some of those old lectures, people couldn't understand anything. I never had any trouble, but anyway, So he wanted us to, and he used examples from his life, and, you know, that wouldn't make any sense, you know, to us today. So in your own way, take your examples, you know, and apply it Krishna consciously, and like that. Probably one is to be thoughtful, not just not to be sheeple, we should be thoughtful people. But we always confirm with, you know, with our godbrothers and senior devotees. That's why it's very important to have a friend in Krishna consciousness. You know? Like we know the 6 things of, you know, receiving gifts, giving gifts, and revealing the mind in confidence. And so very important to establish friendship with older devotees and always consult with them. So if there's no other questions, we'll all fall down at the very soft and wonderful lotus feet of that great personality that we just have to grab onto his dhoti and he'll take us back to home, back to Godhead. Srila Prabhupada ki.